Moving back into the middle of the basement, the bottom of this display, we see some G.I. Joe Valor vs. Venom 2-packs. We had seen the Valor vs. Venom multi-packs earlier, the Toys R Us exclusive ones. These are Valor vs. Venom 2-packs, where it's Valor, a member of G.I. Joe, versus Venom, a member of Cobra. So good guy versus bad guy. And then above those G.I. Joe 2-packs are some Justice League figures from the DC Universe issued by Mattel. We'll take a look at these Valor vs. Venom 2-packs up close. Hasbro, mid-2000s. These G.I. Joe figures don't necessarily resemble the vintage line, but kind of a reimagined or reinvented line of figures, I guess. And the theme was Valor versus Venom. You're going to see a lot of the familiar faces in here. So we'll just start on the end. Here you see Gung Ho versus Cobra Viper. Sergeant Stalker versus Firefly. Once again, familiar faces, usual suspects. Here's Cobra Viper and Firefly, or sorry, Cobra Viper and Televiper. So it's two bad guys in that pack, as well as this one. Beachhead and Cobra Bat version 4. And then down here, back to good guy versus bad guy. You got Dr. Link Talbot versus Cobra Commander. There's a classic one, Snake Eyes versus Storm Shadow. And then down here on the end, you have Gung Ho and the Neo Viper. And above that, Duke versus Cobra Commander. And then with those Mattel Justice League figures above, it's just the main members of the Justice League, 4-inch scale, I think. From the anime, these were supposed to be from the animated show. So it's Batman, there's Hawkgirl, Martian Manhunter, Superman, of which he had different costumes. There was a dark blue version versus the more traditional, like royal blue version of it. I'm not sure which one was more scarce or hard to find. Wonder Woman. And then here on the end is a different version of Martian Manhunter called Attack Armor Martian Manhunter. On the same display are two columns, or maybe flanks is a better term to use, I don't know, of Star Wars figures that you're seeing here. And these Star Wars figures you're seeing are from the Clone Wars, and it's largely clone troopers with a few other kind of trooper figures and mixed in there, but it's mostly clones. And they begin here with Captain Rex below the Starlin Castro Playmakers figure. And this Captain Rex from the Clone Wars, you notice, has a first day issue sticker on there. For those who remember or don't know, first day issue figures with the sticker there, the designation, were figures that were found in the very first cases of the product that arrived at retail stores. And of course, for those who remember, once again, Toys R Us always did the midnight launch on the figures. It was either a Thursday or a Friday night, I forget which. And they would launch the figures at 12:01, and all the diehard collectors, of course, Kenny and Jason, even once in a while I would go, line up at the door, and you get into the building, and they have just like all these figures everywhere, boxes, cases of them, hanging just in shopping carts. And the first cases would have the first day issue sticker in them. So that meant that you were getting a figure from one of the first initial cases that hit retail. And then maybe the next morning, Walmart, Target would open up, and they'd have all their fresh figures on the pegs, and they would have first day issue stickers on there. But all the ones that the subsequent waves of figures, they wouldn't have the sticker on there because they were later waves. So you were getting something from the very first wave with the first day issue sticker there. Here's Clone Pilot Oddball, Clone Commander from the 212 Attack Battalion, or a Clone Trooper, I should say. Here's a Clone Trooper with space gear. Bane Maller with the first day issue sticker on there. Very hard figure to find. There's not much of him out there. There's a BARC Trooper with a big cannon. And the last one down here is a Clone Trooper 327th Star Corps. Pretty much more of the same in this column of Star Wars figures. Clone Scuba Trooper here. And there's a Clone Trooper in blue. It's the Clone Trooper Coruscant landing platform. Jodo Kast, who vaguely resembles Boba Fett, and he's part of the Mandalorians, and we know a lot more about them because of the whole show and everything. But he was a very tough figure to find back in the day. The Salukami Trooper. Down here is an Imperial Engineer. And below him, but very tough to see, is an ARC Trooper in yellow. Rotate 180 degrees, the other side of the display that I just showed you with the Star Wars, G.I. Joe, and Justice League figures. And that brings us to this display. And this display consists mostly of convention figures, as well as a few mail-away and store-exclusive figures. And by convention figures, I mean Wizard World / San Diego Comic-Con exclusive figures that can only be obtained at the conventions. I'm going to show you the figures on this display first, and then I'll offer up a little bit of insight into my quote-unquote exploits at the conventions, the years I attended them, including the 2 years that I attended San Diego Comic-Con between 2008 and 2009. So I'll begin by showing you the Wizard World figures, in particular these 4 Batman figures issued by Mattel at the Mattel booth at Wizard World. I attended Wizard World between 2003 and 2006, I think was the last year I attended. So all these Wizard World figures I'm going to show you are between 2003 and 2005, because if I remember correctly, 2006, there were no convention exclusive figures offered that year. We'll start on the left with this Batman figure, again issued by Mattel at the Mattel booth of the convention. This figure was issued in a solid black box, and I opened up mine because I wanted to see the contents, of course, and it was this very cool looking Batman figure. And 2 other versions of this figure exist. There's one where he's half removing the caul on his face there, where it's like half off. And the rarest version of him has the caul or mask completely removed, where you see the full head sculpt of him there. So I got the most common version. Same thing over here with the Catwoman. She came in a solid black box, so you didn't know like which one you were getting or which version. But with her, it wasn't the figure, it was this little cat statue. And there was about 7 or 8 different colored versions of that statue that existed. I got the most common in the red, white, and blue paint. But there was different levels of scarcity to the different paint ones. There was a jade green, there was a red. I think the second most scarce was the silver, and the scarcest was the gold version. So unfortunately, I wound up with the common versions, but nevertheless, just very cool figures. And over here are 2 Batman figures. Again, from the Mattel booth, Wizard World exclusives. And they're from Batman Begins, so the Christian Bale films. Notice this one has a sticker, but this one doesn't. But instead says Collector's Edition. It was only available at the convention. And these are, again, Christian Bale film characters in each box. Here he is in the prototype armor with the gold accessories and the metal case of accessories down there. And this one's more just traditional, the way he looked in the film. And I apologize for the glare there. But that's kind of just the traditional Christian Bale film version of. Continuing on with the Wizard World exclusive figures, here's one of Fred Krueger. It was available only at the NECA booth because it was made by NECA. And here he is, Fred Krueger, the Springwood Slasher, was what he was known as in the Nightmare on Elm Street films. And you can see there is the pre-burned head sculpt in the traditional red and blue sweater. And the burned head sculpt is next to him in the package where he's clutching a little doll from when the parents burned him alive. Because in the film, he was a child molester. And so the parents, the irate parents in the community burned him alive. And to get back at those parents, he would plague their kids in their dreams by killing them in their dreams. And down here is a Shira figure from Master Universe, again through the Mattel booth. And you can see in this version, she comes with a comb and exclusive outfit. And down here is a Solomon Grundy convention exclusive figure from DC Superheroes line. This is part of the Justice League Unlimited wave from the animated show. And once again, available just like the She-Ra and the Batman figures at the Mattel booth at the Wizard World convention. And over here, we're going to start taking a look at some Muppets figures. You remember seeing the Muppets figures made by Palisades? Again, Palisades is the company. They had a booth at the convention, and they were selling their exclusive figures. Here's Adventure Kermit from the 2004 Wizard World. And he's meant to resemble Indiana Jones. You can see there he's got the brown leather jacket on, the hat, the whip, and the accessories. And over here is Beaker. This is Super Beaker from the 2004 Comic-Con convention. It was Wizard World, actually. And there he comes again with an alternate head sculpt, his helmet, for those who remember Beaker. And here is the vaudeville Statler and Waldorf. Palisades made a few different versions of Statler and Waldorf, and they just had exclusive outfits on. And this one's got him in orange with the striped pink coat on, available only at the Wizard World convention. And then coming up top here is a Tour Animal, again from Palisades, available. You can see there, 2003 Wizard World. And he's got the exclusive black Palisades t-shirt on there. And again, only available through the conventions, the Tour Animal. And over here is an Invisible Beaker. This one's from the 2002 convention, as you can kind of see on the side there. This one, I didn't attend the convention to get this one, this invisible beaker, where you see he's like the invisible head with the vanishing cream. But instead, I picked up an extra one of these tour animal figures, and then I just used the extra I picked up to make a trade with somebody in order to get the invisible beaker into my collection. Switching conventions now from Wizard World to San Diego Comic-Con. These are the figures I acquired at the 2008 San Diego Comic-Con when I attended it. I promise you details on that, and they will be forthcoming. So we'll start just by taking a look right here at this classic Batman-looking figure from DC Direct in the traditional gray outfit. Very nice, sharp-looking Batman figure there, and he comes in this cool kind of packaging. You see the flap there, where their DC Direct products advertised on the inside. Here's what the outside of the box looks like. And it folds over with this little Velcro piece. And you see the other receiver piece right there. And you can fold the flap over and cover the figure if you so chose. But of course, tour animals in the way of all that. When you got this many figures in your collection, it becomes all about finding space for your figures. And this is where I found space for tour animals. So here's a similar figure from DC Direct. Again, only available at the convention, the DC Direct booth. It's Joker. There he is, that menacing look on his face. No socks on, and the straight jacket. Just a very cool looking version of Joker there. And again, only available at the DC Direct booth. Here is a Mattel offering from the convention. It's the Man-Bat. There's the white albino Man-Bat hanging upside down, only available at the Mattel booth at the convention. And you see this little red button down here. I'm just going to press it. When you press that button, a screeching bat sound emits from the package, which is very cool. Now, why is no sound emitting here? Well, this figure's over 10 years old, and I'm pretty sure the lithium battery inside of it's dead at this point. And unfortunately, it's not easily replaceable. It's buried in the package. But yeah, when you would press that button, a screeching bat sound would emit from the package, as well as it would like light up a little bit too. So that was very cool. Another Mattel offering here from the DC Universe line is Lobo, convention exclusive. You see what his 3D glasses on, his hook, and his big gun. And he comes with a bulldog. Unfortunately, the DC Universe sign that normally is perched above him, it kind of came off. The tape or whatever was keeping it held together in the package there. And it just kind of fell in the corner there. What can you do? Nothing's perfect, right? And another Mattel offering from Justice League Unlimited is Giganta. It's a 3 3/4 Giganta there, along with a bigger 8-inch Giganta behind her in package. And above those is a G.I. Joe Combat Heroes 2-back convention exclusive available at the Hasbro booth. It's Snake Eyes and Timber from when these G.I. Joe Combat Heroes were coming around. Back, again, you say new for 2009. Yeah, I got this at the 2008 convention when these figures were coming out back in 2007, 2008, 2009. And here is a Mighty Mugs Iron Man convention exclusive where he's in the gold exclusive paint. Normally he's just in yellow paint. With red, but they got the gold treatment here. And these Mighty Mugs vaguely resemble Funko Pops, or modern-day Funko Pops, because they were the precursors to them. These were coming out before Funko started doing the Pops, which are all the rave today. So before Pops, it was these Mighty Mug figures. They were kind of like, they laid the groundwork for your modern-day Pops. Moving down on display from the 2008 San Diego Comic-Con is a King Grayskull figure issued by Mattel, available at the Mattel booth. It's from the Master Universe line in an exclusive box. And King Grayskull more or less is He-Man with long hair and some shoulder treatment. And these were issued just like the Batman figures in a sealed box. And one in every 4 or 5 boxes had a randomly inserted bronze finish King Grayskull. That was considered to be the chase figure in the rare version. But of course, I just wound up with the common, but that's okay. And then on the end over here, you're going to see a couple Halo figures from McFarlane at the 2008 Comic-Con, available only at the McFarlane booth. Here's the EVA Hell Spartan. There you see the Comic-Con label on the package there. Pretty sharp figure. And on this side is a CQB Active Camouflage Spartan. The label on that one. And then moving down below to the bottom of the display are 3 G.I. Joe Comic-Con figures. The one on the left here is Destro in this snazzy leopard print outfit. And he's known as the Pimp Destro in collecting circles because he's wearing that outfit. And notice above this says 2003 convention exclusive. And there's no convention label on that package as you see over here. Reason being is I didn't score this one at the convention. I didn't get out to San Diego 2008. This one I scored on the Hasbro website. A minute number of this Destro figure were available on the Hasbro Toy Shop website a few weeks after the convention ended. So I got lucky and I scored mine there. There's also a rare version of Destro with a gold head. I don't remember what the production numbers were exactly. I think 2,000 this one were produced, and only 501 with the gold head. Next in are a couple of Cobra Commander figures from the 2008 convention, where Cobra Commander is lecturing behind a podium. Two versions exist. Here's one where you see Cobra Commander in a blue jacket or a blazer. And on this one, he's in a black blazer. And I believe the black blazer version is the rarer one. And these two figures are from NECA and were available at the 2008 Comic-Con at the NECA booth. This one on the left is Anthony Carmine from the video game Gears of War. It was the only Anthony Carmine figure NECA produced and was available exclusively at the convention. And he's got the weapons inside. And over here on the right is a half-cloaked Predator from Aliens vs. Predator Requiem. And you can see there he's in half-cloak form, and he's packaged up with the alien accessories. That wraps up all the convention exclusive figures in this display. Now I'm going to show you the mail-away figures I have sitting here, starting with these two. It's Mossman on the left and Faker on the right for the Master Universe line of Mattel. And these were Toy Fair exclusive mail-away figures. As you can see, it says there in the designation of the Faker package, Toy Fair Wizard. And you had to get these back in the day by mailing away for them through Toy Fair magazine. And I mean the old school way, because these came out back in maybe 2002 or 2003. And what that involved was obtaining a copy of the Toy Fair magazine itself at the newsstand or maybe a Walden Books. And then inside the magazine would be an order form that you had to fill out with a pen and include the order form as well as your check or money order for the cost of the figure and shipping and handling, and mail it away through the quote-unquote snail mail for your figure. There was no internet at all involved in obtaining these figures back in the day. Again, the time frame was 2002, 2003. It was mailing away the old school way. No computers at all. I know it's hard to believe. Anyway, here's a Faker figure. And again, this is the reimagined wave of Masters from the early 2000s, not the vintage wave, but he's still in blue there and looks fairly similar. And over here is Mossman with the frock coat. We had seen the previous Mossman from Matty Collector in my collection. This is just another Mossman. Very cool with the frock coat. Mailaways. Over here on the right is another one. Toy Fair Mailaway exclusive. It's Snake Tila. Sorry for the glare. Once again, I had a mail away for it the old school way through Toy Fair magazine. And up here is a Jason Todd mail away figure from Toy Fair from the Hush line. And that's just a cool figure. And that's the only way you can get Jason Todd from that Hush line was through Toy Fair's mail away. And that takes us down here to the last two figures on the display, and they are store exclusives. We'll start here with the Civil War Cylon Centurion. It's a Toys R Us exclusive from Battlestar Galactica. Now, this Cylon is not from the original Battlestar Galactica TV show of the late 70s, early 80s, but from the reimagined or reinvented one that came out back in, I'd say, the mid-2000s. That's why this Cylon looks different than the one I had showed you previously. He's got a more modern look to him than the one from the original TV show that Joyride Studio produced I had showed you earlier. And up top here is a Star Wars figure from the Clone Wars. It's the holographic General Grievous and was a Toys R Us exclusive, available only through Toys R Us back at that time. And that concludes this display. Next, I'm going to show you the 2009 San Diego Comic-Con exclusive figures that I picked up at the convention when I attended in 2009. But before I show you those, I just wanted to offer up a brief history of conventions for those in my viewing audience who may not be in the know on what these conventions are. Just offer up a brief history on that, and then briefly touch on my experiences at the conventions that I attended in those years. So as far as history goes, Wizard World is a national roving convention that tours the United States and appears in many of the major cities across the U.S. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, Dallas, and it's expanded to other cities in recent years. And it is a comic book and action figure convention. And in the years I was attending it, which were 2002 to 2006, the big four toy companies, which are Hasbro, Mattel, NECA, and Mezco, were selling exclusive figures for the convention at Wizard World, at the convention itself. And so that was a big draw for somebody like me to attend, is for the exclusive figures. And then I remember in 2006, that was the last year I attended Wizard World, there was no convention exclusives offered in that year by the big four, the four major toy companies. And you could even throw McFarlane there. I mean, just round them out, making it even five major toy companies. But they didn't appear there that year. And word on the street, which at that time was becoming the internet, word on from the collectors and people in know on the internet was that the major toy companies will only be bringing their convention exclusive to San Diego Comic-Con every year, held in July, not to any of the Wizard World conventions. And so it was a few years later then, in 2008, 2009, that I actually attended San Diego Comic-Con as a participant, as a fan, as an action figure lover and such. And again, for those who don't know, San Diego Comic-Con is the biggest pop culture mecca in America today. And it started off from very humble beginnings back in like the 70s, I think. It was just a little 8 or 10 table comic book show down in the basement of some VFW hall outside of San Diego or in San Diego. And it just got bigger and bigger from that until by the 1980s, it's selling out the San Diego Convention Center. And it's just a huge comic book and action figure convention, but it's even more than that. It's more than just comic books and action figures. It's pop culture. It's movies. It's TV. It's video games. It's anything that's popular in America is going to be covered at San Diego Comic-Con. There's panels and signings, famous people, all kinds of stuff there. So it's become the big mecca. And for an action figure collector like myself, the exclusives coming through there. And so I got out to the chance to attend San Diego Comic-Con back in 2008, 2009. And overall, it was a very positive experience. It really was. Just like attending Wizard World. I mean, you brace for long lines and long wait times, but that just kind of goes with the territory. That's part of collecting and going to conventions. Of course, I didn't really know what long lines were until I attended San Diego Comic-Con. But no, it was a positive experience overall. And reflecting back on it now, it was just encouraging to see so many people. And believe me, there were a lot of people the years I attended San Diego. There were a lot of people there, like more people than I had ever seen roaming around one place at one time. And a lot of them were in costumes because they have a passion for what they're there for. For me, it was the action figures and just to see all the cool stuff that there was to see there. And some of them come in costume and just dressed up, and just such a life in one place under one roof. And considering the conditions we're living in now with this pandemic, I don't know that'll ever happen again. But it was encouraging to see it back then, and it was a lot of fun. But it wasn't without frustration though. There was frustration from those years I attended San Diego, primarily with the Hasbro Mattel booths. And you got to bear in mind, the Hasbro Mattel exclusives at that convention were amongst the most sought after of all the toy company exclusives out there. They would sell out the quickest. So as a collector, you're kind of determined to get in there and get those Hasbro Mattel exclusives. So the first year I got in there, and I went right to the Hasbro booth first. Maybe I was through the gates roughly, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes after the convention opened. So it's early in the morning, not long after they open exactly. And I make my way to the Hasbro booth, and I'm being told, sorry, you can't line up here. The line's too long, and so the line's been suspended. Come back later on in the day. I think they said they'll reopen the line after 12:30. So okay, fine. It's not that there's nothing to do for that 4 hours or 5 hours you have to come back in, because again they needed time for the line to dissipate so more people could line up. Certainly there's a lot of stuff to do, but now that creates another problem. And the problem is, let's just say again, it was nobody can line up again until 12:30. So right around noontime, you're going to get another smattering of bodies right around the Hasbro booth who don't want to move because they want to establish their spot in line for when the line reopens at 12:30. Well, that's a problem. That's going to get the attention of the fire chief. You can't have all these bodies just standing around like that. So they have to disperse people. But people aren't happy to hear that. So now you have some angry voices in the crowd of, well, we came for these exclusives, we want to get them. We're being told we can't line up. You said 12:30, et cetera, et cetera. So that posed a problem. It really did. And I remember at some point I was able to get in line that year and get my convention exclusives. And the next year in 2009, Hasbro Mattel kind of learned from their problem, in the sense that once you got through the initial gates and onto the show floor, or even before the show floor, there was like Hasbro Mattel booths already, like they call it pre-booths, set up. Where if you plan to hit the Hasbro Mattel booths, you have to hit these pre-booths first. And what these pre-booths are going to do is give you this little card. And on that card they're going to hand you is what time you are allowed to line up at. And I believe in other words, they're putting like people in groups. So I got to line up between, according to my card, if I remember correctly, I was able to line up sometime around between 10:30 and 12:30. That was my lineup time. So I was in maybe the second or third group or wave of people. So that was encouraging, and I'm thinking, great, now I can get in line at 10:30, if I believe it was 10:30, if I remember correctly. Again, we're going back over a decade. But if it was 10:30, I thought that was encouraging. I get the line at 10:30, so I walk the floor, see what's going on. And by the way, Mattel had the same system in place. Well, it was nice in theory, but here's a problem that maybe some of you watching this video have already figured out. It's going to create the same problem. So people in my group that were allowed to line up at 10:30, right around 10 a.m., they're going to want to start establishing their spot in the pre-line, so to say, the queue, call it what you want. And they're going to want to start congregating outside the Hasbro booth. And again, not moving and saying, well, I'm just waiting here for the line to open because my card says I could line up at 10:30. So it just created, more of the same problem, essentially, with the whole lineup thing. So now we can't line up at 10:30 because the line hasn't dissipated enough. So now we're told, come back in a few more hours. More angry voices emanate from the crowd and such. But eventually, they did allow me to line up later on that day. And the only bad thing, and again, a little more frustration here, was I didn't mind the 2.5 hours I was in line waiting to get up to the actual booth to make my purchase, and hoping that I can score everything from my buddies as well, who gave me their want list. But by the time I did get up there, 2 items I wanted, these 2 Marvel Universe figures of Captain America and Iron Man, I believe, that were convention exclusives from Hasbro, they were already sold out by the time I got up there. So I wasn't able to score them. So again, that was a little bit frustrating. But again, the Hasbro and Mattel frustration aside, it was overall a positive experience. And incidentally, the other 2 toy companies, NECA and Mezco, their booths were not like that at all. There might have been a small line at NECA and Mezco booths, a small line, nothing of significance, nothing like Hasbro and Mattel. Again, their convention exclusives weren't as sought after as Hasbro and Mattel. They were like the next tier down from them in terms of how they're sought after on the secondary market, how they're going to resell on eBay and such. So it was much easier buying NECA and Mezco exclusives. And so once again, it just lent to the overall positive experience of being at the conventions these years and walking the floor and picking up these exclusives for my collection that still sit here today.